Well, hello, everybody. Good evening. We have a lot of people here already. I know. Can you believe it, Dave? You're first. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for being here. Lynn, hello. Discover Sustainable, hello to you. Okay, I got to read you guys here. Sorry. How am I? We're having snow again in the UP. Yeah, we had snow several days in a row. Some of it stuck and then melted. Some just flew around. But yeah, so we had thunderstorms and severe thunderstorms come through today. Just torrential downpours, and it's still in the low 40s, I think, for me. So yeah, exactly, Dave. Still a few weeks out from our last frost, so anything could happen. Lynn, your last frost date is June 9th. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, hard to hold back planting. It is. And especially when you see so many other people like already harvesting and everything, it's like crazy, just crazy out there. Dave, you gambled and sowed very small patches of some seeds 4 weeks early just to see. Well, I'm sure the carrots will do well. I don't know about radishes and rutabagas, how they fare in the freezing. I'm not sure. So there's a new road cover. Oh, there you go. Hey, Grammy Karen. Hello. How are you doing? Who do we have here now? Matt and Sarah. Hello. Oh, Sarah. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. You're terribly dry, windy here, red flag warning. Oh, yeah. That was us a few weeks ago, and we've been getting more moisture, which is good. Oh, Grammy Karen, I totally understand you. Absolutely. I hate being on my phone and trying to, not even moderating, but just trying to be in a chat, and it's like, I can't tag anybody, at least quickly, it's like, especially when I come in and say hi, and then I've got 15 people like, hi, and I'm trying to reach everybody before it goes away, Hey, Alicia, good evening to you. Your aunt's mother was in palliative. We've been praying for her, and she. Wow, awesome! Oh, that's so great, Alicia. I'm so happy for you. Hey, Obama Gardner, how are you? That's okay. We need to make sure that somebody is getting gorgeous weather, right? And it's totally good. Monica, hi from Georgia. So we got Alabama and Georgia and Canada and the Northeast. On the Northwest, been heavy rain overnight. Spring temperatures. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate it. You had a fire evacuation at work, so you left your laptop. Oh, I hope that everything's going to be okay. Hey, Phyllis. Hello. Thank you for coming in. I know it's like, if I had to leave my laptop somewhere where there could be potential disaster, I'd be like, it's like my whole working life is there. It's like, no, we can't do that. So absolutely, Lynn, absolutely. So how's everybody's weekend? What did you do? What did I do? I pretty much I got new tires on Thursday. I'm like, all four. And yeah, that's a hefty bill to get. But then I was driving on Saturday and the tire pressure gauge went on. And I'm like, no. So I'm going tomorrow morning to have them check all that. Karen, you were always well, but you left early. Oh, you didn't want to go back and build. That is true. If there is a fire, you don't want to be going back up to the fifth floor. I hear you. I have spent probably about the last month or so going through things in my basement, organizing, cleaning out, purging, stuff I've been needing to do and wanting to do for at least 10 years. And it was just to that point where it's like, I have to do this. It's got to get done. Oh, so there's 2 little areas of workbench and another shelf thing that I need to actually go through yet. But generally, I've got everything. I've got 3 new sets of wire shelves down there, and bins and marking things and organizing. So it's like, but in that I found out that I have about 15 bags of potting soil, like the big ones. And like, no wonder I couldn't get to the back of my basement. Oh my goodness sakes. Yeah. Last year we couldn't get a hold of them. And, it was like everything was sold out. So through the summer and fall, as I could, get a hold of one, I'd pick up a bag, and it's like, then I wouldn't remember how many I actually had. So I got tons of potting soil. So my beds, once I get them remade, I'll get some fresh potting soil in there. Alicia, you said, well, congratulations. 22 years. Oh, and happy birthday, Tim and Corey. Wow. Lots of good celebrating going on. That's awesome. Dave, you played around in your garden for a bit, moved stuff out of the way so you can start setting foot. Ooh, how exciting. So are you going to have, you're talking about footings. Now, is that just to put the mill on, or are you going to actually build like a shed structure over it just to keep out the weather, or what are your plans with that? I can't wait to see. That's going to be so great. I know, it's a great score, isn't it? You clean your garden and your greenhouse. Oh, yeah. So right now, while I'm waiting on the weather and everything, that's when I'm trying to get some of this stuff done in the house. I was actually editing a bunch on Saturday, and I got to the last video clip that I had and realized that I'm only about a third of the way through, and I don't know where the rest of my video clips are. So I'm like, I've got to hunt for those. Oh my gosh. So you're welcome, Alicia. I know, Sarah, but you've been doing great with your greenhouse. I mean, just like, I know that probably just gives you a taste of being out in the full garden and everything, but at least you've been able to get out and grow things, and everything looks so lush. It looks really, really good. The plans are made for a septic going in on your Arkansas property. Wow, awesome. Oh, I'm so glad for you. It would be open air for now, needs a gravel base and concrete blocks for all the feet. Got it. Okay. Got it. So, but that is going to be amazing. Now, Dave, how big of logs can you actually put on there? I mean, like diameter as well as length. I'm just curious to find out, because I know like all different mills can take different weights and different things like that. But it's just so fun to see the different channels that actually end up getting them, and it's like what they do with them. And it's like, okay, you fell one tree, and you could build a whole entire floor out of the one tree. And it's like just amazing. So great. So Monica, your garden is all cleaned up, just waiting. Oh, nice. Very, very good. Like I said, I've just been kind of buried in the basement. That sounds bad. But just trying to get things done, because this whole last year, you guys who have been with me for the last year, what kind of craziness it's been. And next month is going to be really crazy too. I'm going to be gone 3 weekends, taking care of my dad in a row. And so it's like, it kind of cuts into a lot of time, but I'm happy to do it, and everything. But I'm trying to like get some things done ahead of what I can, so that once I can get outside, it's like I'm able to do that. But 26-inch diameter. That is a big tree. 22 feet. Wow. Now, what are most of the trees that you have around there then? So, Deb, your greenhouse has been a new experience. You have your electrician friend putting some outlets in so you don't have to. Nice. Oh, that'll be good. Wow. I'd like to be in your greenhouse. That's going to be so great. Oh, goodness sakes. Your plants are ready, Monica. Oh, wonderful. Hey, Eli. Good evening to you. How is my dad doing? He's just kind of maintaining, hanging in there. You know, as best as can be expected. So he's, you know, still pretty weak and everything, but he's been doing some physical therapy, trying to get a little stronger because we got to the point where it took two of us to pretty much lift him out of a chair, out of his wheelchair into his bed, you know, different things like that. And we could not keep that up. And it was like, Dad, you either need to do this physical therapy or you're going to have to go to the nursing home where people can take care of you because we can't do this. So, you know, it's just that time of life right now. It's kind of there. So I don't really know, you know, so much of my garden stuff has just been like up in the air for me. So it's been hard to really get, not motivated, but to get excited about what I need to do, because I don't know if it's going to be something that I can even get to this year. I don't know. It's just going to be crazy. So you're looking forward to designing and installing raised beds and gardens? Yes, absolutely. On the ground, you have maple, oak, cherry, and ash. Oh, nice. Oh, some beautiful, beautiful wood there. Your son bought you some brown chicks. That, yeah. You know what? When you get the chicks first, then you need the coop. That's kind of is an incentive there, isn't it? Oh, Alicia, no, you're not upsetting me at all. Dave's not here. No, it's just it's you know, just what it is at this point in life. I'm not upset about it. It's you know, I've got all my wood ready to rebuild my beds, and I have to wait for the right weather for that because I'm going to be oiling it, and so it's got to be dry and warm enough for the oil to soak in on the inside where I have it all burned. I'm going to do linseed oil and stuff like that. And so I know from experience when I put these together and try to do that, and then it's too cold or it rains or something like that, it just washes away all my work and my product and everything. So I really can't be building these until the weather's right. And so I'm kind of waiting and waiting. And sometimes the weather won't be right until actually I have to be planting. So to rebuild, so I've got 7 beds right now that I think 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. 8 beds. No, 7 beds out there. That I have all the wood for and ready to go and just to rebuild. But you know, it's going to take a while just by myself. So yeah, Eli, how are you doing? Oh, that's tough. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, it has been a year. So I'm also, the other thing, oh, let me see. Oh, thank you, Karen. Yeah, I could get gray beard over here. And you guys, we could knock that all out in a day, right? Hey, Howie, hello. You're planting tomatoes and lavender in the ground? Nice. Very nice. You got one Brahma. There, I don't know most of the different breeds of chickens because I don't raise them. So, but I'm getting to know some of the names. But some of the chickens that I see on other people's videos are just absolutely gorgeous. The colors and the flumes and I mean, it's just like plumes plumes. Use the right word here, Kathy. Okay, and so I mean they're just gorgeous, and oh, it'd be so beautiful to see those. Oh, thank you, Discover Sustainable. I appreciate that. Oh, I bet Grammy Karen. I bet. Hey, Debbie, how are you? So also the other thing in cleaning my basement and going through everything and getting it all organized and getting all of my, so many of my jars that I canned up are still in the boxes that I hadn't been able to get on shelves. So by the time I got everything sorted and on the shelves, I don't need to grow green beans. I don't need to grow tomatoes. There's a number of things I do not need to grow because I don't have room to store anything more. And so that kind of changes things up a little for me in my garden. And I may end up just eating more fresh out of the garden this year, doing some things. And, it's just like I just finished a couple days ago. So I need to just kind of sit down and reboot kind of myself and to figure things out and going, okay, what can I grow? What can I get started? And so I haven't started anything yet either. I know it's very late, but we'll see where it goes. Yes, it does, Dave. Absolutely feels good to have all that out. And I'm going, oh, here's a whole nother case of V8 juice that I didn't know was down there. And here's another case of banana peppers. It's like I've got 36 jars of banana peppers. So, but so growing like onions and carrots and peppers and some things like that for fresh eating, I think will be good. And yep, you're right, Deb. Absolutely. You know what? It's like there's no sense in continuing on growing more and producing another 200 pounds of something if, it's just me, it's just if I don't have room for it, if I'm not going to eat it. And so, yeah, I've got 42 jars of green beans right now. So I'm thinking that, if I do grow some, I might grow, 6 plants or something like that, 5 plants that I can just eat fresh. So, but I'm not going to do a whole bed of them. And so in that way, it's going to, I think what I need to do with this also is to release some of the pressure on me with all the time and everything that's going on, to say it's going to be okay if I don't get all the beds done by the end of May, and it's like, if I can get 2 or 3 done and then plant those and then just work on the others throughout the summer, that's going to be what it's going to have to be. But you know what? I'll be taking you guys along with in the garden, so that'll be fun. Lynn, I know. It's never too late for zucchini. That is true. They eat more. Well, that's the other thing, is that I haven't been cooking much from what I've had all year because of just the crazy schedules. And so now that I have everything kind of cleaned, I know what I have and organized, it'll be easier to do that. And I can, feel more encouraged to grab stuff off the shelf and be able to cook with that. So mulch now, less weed. Yes. The one thing I've got, things that I've done before is for many, many years, I actually grew, or my garden was raised rows. And if anybody doesn't really know what that is, it's like, okay, you've got your garden plot tilled, and then it's all loose soil, but then I know where my rows are going to go. So what I would do is rake soil up, know where my walking paths were, and then rake the soil up from the walking path onto the row beds. And I would make usually 2 to 3 foot wide beds. So it'd be raking it up, and it would be a good 8 to 10 inches higher than where we would walk. And so that way you're never walking, right close to where the vegetables are. I could wide row plant. I could do, broadcast plant. I could do all that kind of stuff. So, okay, Eli, I know, but I don't have any space for anything either. 30-inch beds, 24-inch walkways. Yeah. I actually, my walkways were more like 12 to 18 inches, so they were a little narrower. But in the walkway, I would plant annual ryegrass. And so as soon as I seeded all my beds, I would seed the walkways too. And then, let it rain and water, whatever. And as it grew up, I would just weed whip the paths down, and that would keep, first of all, I wasn't walking in mud all the time, but it would also keep the weeds out from that area. I would have some natural green mulch going right in there, and it worked out really, really well. And in the fall, I would just turn it over, and so I would have that green manure going into my soil and building it up, and it turned out really, really well. So, sorry, I'm getting a little behind here. Monica, your pantry is still full of canned green beans from last garden. I know, I've got that too, and that's what I was doing last year. But I'm at the point now where I don't have any place to keep them. I really don't. I do want to put in a squash garden, and so that I would totally give away because I don't have any place to store squash. Deb, your son is turning 18 in June. Are you away working long distance most time? I know, Deb. Exactly. Monica, you're doing some straw bale gardening this year. Very cool. Absolutely. Yep, living paths. It was. It worked out really, really well. Our local kind of feed and seed store had huge bins of the annual ryegrass that I could just go and get a scoop for $1, $1.50 or whatever. I'd have a full bag, 3 pounds of it or something, and just go and sprinkle it in, and it grew up very, very nicely. Deb, garden the same way with mounded raised soil. Yep, absolutely. It worked really, really well. Hey, Kiri, you're watching an ad. Oh, nope, you don't want to learn to fly. Okay. Yep. No, that'll be great. One of the things, so you plant clover in your walkways. That's a great thing to do too. Yeah, there are a lot of different things you could plant in there. So that being said, I do have a bag of annual ryegrass that what I was planning on doing last year, as I would replace the beds, because all of this was supposed to be done last summer. But as I replaced a bed and it was too late to plant anything in there for this season, I was just going to fill it with the annual ryegrass, then turn it in. And so that's something I could still do this year if I get to a bed and it's, it's now middle of July or whatever, and it's too late. I can, I'm just going to put some ryegrass in there and let it grow in there and bulk up my soil a little bit. Saturday. Okay. Well, your goats keep you busy, Kiri. Absolutely. So I wanted to show you, well, first of all, did you guys like my new thumbnail? Did you notice I have a new one? Because today is episode 100. So I figured, okay, for the next, I don't know if I'm going to do for another 100, but, I figured, well, it's kind of a milestone. I'm going to do a new thumbnail on here and get a new design. And it's a little simpler, but just wanted to change it up a little bit. So one of the things, okay, that's also cleaning out different, thank you, Sarah. A year ago, well, it was last May, I was listening to or watching Anna at Fermented Homestead, and what she had done was fermenting garlic cloves in raw honey. And I was like, oh, that seems kind of neat, you know, like a super immune booster type of thing to do. And so I made 4 little half-pint jars of of this, and they were starting to ferment right away. I mean, within 2 days or something, they were like bubbling and foaming out the cover and all kinds of things. And I had shown you guys that day when I did it on my live, and I don't expect you guys to remember that at all or anything, but those jars have been in a tray, floating from my living room, my dining room to my kitchen and all around and kind of in the way. And yet it was like, you know, after 5 months, I'm looking at it and going, I don't know if those are even edible. I don't know if I should do that. Are you allergic to bees, Eli? Wow. Oh, thanks, Deb. I'm glad you like it. Oh, Debbie remembers. So anyway, in my organizing spree that I've been trying to do here, it was like, okay, I need to deal with these jars. I need to find out if they're still okay or not. Thank you, Carol. I'm so glad you're here. So I opened one and I took a little bite out of one of the garlic cloves, and I mean they're brown now, and it was like, but it was still kind of crunchy. I was like, okay, I'm not dead yet. It's still good. And so because they've been soaking in honey all this time, they're doing pretty good. So I combined them all into one jar, and I now have them in the refrigerator. But here they are, my garlic cloves, all soaking in raw honey. So now I can do a couple different things with it. I can eat the garlic raw if I want to. I can take the honey, which is infused with the garlic stuff, so you have garlic honey, and I could put that in, you know, spread it on something or put it in a drink or whatever I wanted to do with it. I wouldn't want to put garlic honey in tea, though. That would just like be really gross. I think so. Hey, Fleetwood Patch, good afternoon to you. And so, but what it did, you still have the flavor and the aroma of the garlic, but the intense heat has been taken out of it because of the honey. So, so I have got both of these are natural antibiotics. The honey is, and the garlic is. And so I have like a super duper booster double whammy antibiotic mix here. So anyway, I've now put it in the refrigerator, and I finally put a pickle pipe top on there, so it doesn't bubble over anymore, because it was still fermenting. Even after a year, it was still fermenting. So it was like so cool. You want to put some on chicken and barbecue with coconut aminos. Now that would be good. That would be really good to take some of this honey and spread it all. There you go. Thank you, Carol. Yeah. Ooh, I know what to do with it in cooking. Oh, Eli, I had no idea. You also don't know how many socks I have. But wow, you be careful. Be careful out there. So anyway, there is a whole nother jar of medicinal here. So now I've got it in the fridge, and that'll like last for another 10 years or something. Yeah, garlic and the honey. So take some of that and spread it on chicken while you're cooking that. Ooh, that sounds really, really good. Thank you for the ideas. I really appreciate that. So, alrighty, I gotta find my things. So, I was going through looking for what the 10 most asked gardening questions are that are out there. And it really kind of breaks down to two different groups and categories. One is people who are newbie gardeners, never done anything before. It's like, how do I start? What do I do? How do I, where do I start? Different things like that. And then the other ones are maybe people who have gardened for a little bit and but still have a lot of questions. And it's like, what are some of the most asked questions out there? So basically, I'll start out with the one. So where do I start? I've never gardened before, and it's like, what do I do? So they said to like really, excuse me, ask friends and neighbors who gardens. Talk to a local gardening specialist. Different things like that. But you need to do the research. Figure out. You've got to plan it out, not just like, oh, I'll go to the garden center and just buy up, $200 worth of plant starts and then walk home. It's like, what do I do with them? Where do I go? I don't know what to do. So anyway, but to have a plan. But also, no matter how much research you do, give yourself a learning curve and lots of patience. It's like there's going to be trial and error. Just enjoy it as you go through. There's going to be storms that'll come through, wipe out things. There'll be bugs. There'll be all kinds of things. Or you planted things at the wrong time or in the wrong place, or you thought you were pulling weeds and you were pulling up all your plants. Different things like that. That was actually one of my biggest things when I first was gardening and putting all the seed in the ground. And it was like, I don't know what they're going to look like when they come up. What does a pea plant look like? Am I going to mistake it for a weed? Or, it's like I had no idea what these plants are going to look like when they came up. So in that way, just research. Now we've got, YouTube where people can show you what these all look like, which is amazing, and there's so many resources out there for people who are just starting. But anyway, so get a plan. And there's really good questions to ask yourself before you choose your garden site, where you're going to put everything. First of all, it's like, what part of your garden gets full sun, in which you need at least 6 to 8 hours for growing? What is the first vegetable or fruit or herb that immediately comes to mind when you think of garden produce? So a lot of people think, oh, tomatoes, different things like that. But when you have your garden produce, when you go to the grocery store and buy up all your stuff, what is kind of the first thing? If it's lettuce, okay, but they said that's the one you should start with, the one that comes to mind most. Oh, it's like there we go. I was like, it was stuck. Hey, Christy, hello. Been there with Les, bought plant starts, killed most of them. A little boy, that happens too. Little boys and rabbits and dogs and all kinds of other things will pull them up and do that. So. Wow, Eli, that's a high sensitivity there. Just be careful. Absolutely. So then what type of foods, what kinds of foods do you and your family eat often? You've heard me talk about this before. It's like grow what you eat. So it's like, what do you like to eat? What do you have in there? If you don't like tomatoes or you're allergic to tomatoes, don't grow tomatoes. If your family never eats potatoes or anything like that, don't go out of your way to grow them because they take up a lot of space. And yet, on the other hand, if there are some foods that you've been wanting to try, it's like, I've never had Swiss chard, but it looks really good. I like other greens. Maybe I'll grow 1 or 2 plants of Swiss chard. And it's like, there's no harm in that. They don't take up that much room, unless you, like in California, you can overwinter them, and then the next year they're just like huge. But here they're just like, they're not that big of plants. So let me see. So anyway, eat or grow what you eat. So are you going to have help from family members? Think about how much you can feasibly do by yourself versus if you have backup. I've had people tell me, it's like, oh, you've got the whole backyard, turn that all into a garden. It'll be so great. And it's like, I'm just by myself. I have a full-time business. And it's like, there's no way that I am going to be able to keep up that much garden, and it's like, I've got almost more than what I can handle as it is, even with a small garden. But so be realistic about what you can do. Don't overwhelm yourself, because otherwise it takes all of the enjoyment out of gardening too. Oh, that's so cool, Sarah. Yay. So what areas in your yard can you reasonably give to raising food crops? And you can always mix flowers in with the produce too. So like especially if you're in an HOA or something like that, and it's, and they're very, very particular about how much you can put into your yard, into, landscaping and everything. Well, landscape, putting your veggies in with the flowers and stuff like that. So, oh, thanks, Alicia. So, it depends, or if you cannot do the front yard because of other regulations, see how much of the backyard you can do, different things like that. Think about your specific growing and garden zone. Nice raised beds look lovely with a green lawn, path for walking rows. We've kind of talked about that. Hey, Teresa, hello. Thanks for coming in. Do you get heavy snow or none at all? This affects whether you purchase winter hardy types of plants versus more tender ones. What plants do you see at your local nursery, in your neighbor's yard? That's a really good test too. It's like, find out what other people are growing, what grows well here. Again, that's part of your research and trying to figure out, asking friends and neighbors like, hey, what grows well here? Do you want crops that you can store for some months, like potatoes, onions, and carrots? Do you want to can fruits and berries? Do you want to can other vegetables? Do you want to learn all that? So, all that kind of stuff. You could always consider some berry plants and a couple fruit trees, that can maybe take a little bit longer to establish, but they will be there at some point. And then the other to go beyond that is like, do you like caring for animals? Rabbit and chicken manures are top-notch for gardens. Do you enjoy cut flowers in the house? Look for long-lasting cutting types. And if you're a crafter, you may want to get like gourds or sunflowers or different things like that to be able to use. So, okay. Another question is, how much money should I spend on my garden? Oh, first of all, you can spend thousands of dollars or you can spend, $50. Depends on, first of all, look at your budget, but then scrounge for the materials. You can get really creative at, if you need to grow beds, or build beds, if you need to have those, try to find the different materials you could to make your beds. Otherwise, just put it in the ground. You could rent a tiller from the local hardware store or something, till up the garden, put stuff in there and just start growing. It doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need to have, this gorgeous cedar and, wire fence all around and everything like that. Unless you're contending with a lot of animals, then you might need some kind of fencing, but generally you can get by with something pretty inexpensive. You're searching for lemon tree cuttings you can start in your area. Nice. On your property. Okay. Well, Kiri, thank you. That's so sweet. So also, just get really inexpensive pots if you're going to do container gardening. Don't go out and buy these, huge wine barrels or ceramic pots that cost $100 a piece or whatever. It's just, you can get by really, really inexpensively. Okay. Next question would be, what type of plant should you start with as a beginner? I think we kind of covered that. It's like, but there's some other questions or responses here. Hey, Lisa. Hello. They say it's a tough question to answer since there's so many factors. We'd be gardening in the ground or in pots, all that kind of stuff. So that will depend on what kind of plants you start with. And then what type of soil is best. So no-till. Yeah. This really depends on where you live and if you're gardening in the ground or in pots. If it's clay-based, use a soil that would break up the clay so that the roots and water can move freely under the ground. Organic soil will be more expensive, but it lasts a lot longer than any synthetic soil that you would put in here. So really depends, if you have really sandy soil, you want to start bulking it up. So next question is, how often should I water? How often do you water? It says this is one of the most frequently asked questions about any type of gardening. So it is tons of different factors. It includes the climate where you live, the time of the year, the amount of rainfall that you get, the type of soil, where your plants are located in your garden, whether your plants are in containers or in the ground, all this kind of stuff. But the first thing you do is to read the labels when you purchase the seeds or the plants. Mostly you need to know if the plant is drought tolerant or if it prefers moist soil. And so those that prefer your soil moisture, they're going to need to be watered more often. So exactly, Dave. You just got to watch it. Absolutely. They said for most of your plants, you're simply going to stick your finger about an inch into the soil. If it's dry, it's time to water deeply. If the soil still feels moist, wait until it feels dry. So, again, if you're in a really dry climate, let's, in the Southwest, in more deserty type of thing, you're going to have to water every day because it's going to just dry up every day. But if you're in the Southeast, where you're hot and humid and, rich soil and rain quite often, then you're probably going to be able to just leave it to nature to be watering and everything. So the best thing is to deep water your beds so that you don't have to water as often. And as you deep water, the roots are going to reach down and they're going to go deeper to find that. So, once they're established, you don't want to do it with little seedlings because their roots just aren't deep enough. But so to get your daughter started, you had them do a salad garden, lettuce, tomato plants, radish. That's so great. They can make their own salad. That's so great, Teresa. That's awesome. Sorry, my leg is killing me. So anyway, yeah, so watering is not a one-size-fits-all type of thing. Basically, just check your soil, see if it needs it or not. If you have soil that tends to have more clay in it and everything, you're not going to need to water as much. So then, how often should I fertilize my plants? Well, that again depends on what kind of fertilizer you're using, the kind of plants, if they're trees or if they're veggies or if they're, whatever it is. But it said vegetable gardeners can fertilize their garden beds about once a month with a quick release or about once a season with a slow release fertilizer. Now, if you're doing a liquid soluble, like a fish emulsion type of thing, you could do it once every 1 to 2 weeks. I know Stivers they do like every Sunday. They have a routine, with their fish emulsion. There are different things that they do. And they go around, they water and you fertilize, water the plants, spray it on the leaves, neem oil, all that kind of stuff. So they have a routine that they've set up. That's for their climate. That's what works for them, and they've found great success with that. So, but Grammy Karen, before you leave, I want to thank you and all of my other moderators for being so great. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you being here. Love to see all that blue floating around there. So, need to get into a routine. I know, Teresa, it really does help, because then it's like, that day comes around, you go, okay, this is the day to do this. And rather than trying to figure out how long has it been since I've done this, or is it time to do that? So anyway, and really just mixing some fertilizer into your beds and your compost and everything, no matter what kind of fertilizer it is that you're using. Mixing it in when you start, then your plants have a great start in there. So absolutely, Christy, is so good. So and then finding out if your plants need partial sun, partial shade, full sun, or full shade, all that kind of stuff. But what does that really mean? People ask that. So full shade refers to areas in your garden that receive fewer than 4 hours of sun each day. So if it ends up peeking through, late morning to noon or something, and then it goes away, that's still, that would be full shade. Partial shade and partial sun refer to areas of your garden that receive between 4 hours and 6 hours of sun each day. If your plant calls for partial shade, it will do better at the lower end of the sun exposure scale. If your plant calls for partial sun, it will do better at the higher end of the time frame. Then full sun refers to areas in your garden that receive at least 6 hours of sun each day. So mine start to get sun in the summer, with the sun coming up at 6. There are areas they start getting at 6 o'clock in the morning already, but usually by 7:30 or 8 o'clock, it's in full sun until, well, there's some that still get it by 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So it depends on the time of, of the summer and everything, but I get 16 to 17 hours of sun, of daylight, in the summer, so that's a lot. It just seems like everything freezes here, so I don't know if. All right. So if my garden doesn't get any sun at all, will anything grow? Well, it can be very, very limited, and you'd have to kind of stick to flowers, probably like begonias and different things like that. But if you want to do veggies, you have to have sunlight out there. And then, should I plant in containers, raised beds, or in the ground? It all depends on your gardening situation, where you are, what you can do. There's pros and cons to each one. And really that kind of comes down to what your needs are, what your personal needs are. So you've had to cut limbs and even a tree because you didn't plant. Oh, wow. Yeah, it can definitely, if a tree is small and as it grows, it's like reaching out and then it's shading a good bit of your garden. I totally get it. I have found that my tomatoes have done the best when they get morning to early afternoon sun and then afternoon shade. They really like that hot afternoon stuff where they can be in the shade then, and it's not frying up the tomatoes. So they really like that. How do I know when is the first frost or last frost? Well, you can always go online and just Google it. Farmer's Almanac has information like that. Clyde's Garden Planner is a great tool too, so you can do that. So Dave, you need to clear a few dozen more trees for sun on your orchard. Well, you've got that mill. You're going to keep that busy, aren't you? Oh, hemlocks for apples. Oh, that's a good plan. I like that. So what are soil amendments and what do they do? Well, soil amendments are just materials that you add to the soil to improve the soil structure. It helps to enhance the drainage or moisture retention. It adds to the soil's pH and it adds nutrients to it. And there's so many different kinds of amendments you can do. I mean, from, compost to, manure to just, all kinds of, there's just so many things you can put in there. If in the fall, you're going to load it in with leaves that they can break down. That's a good one too. And like we were talking about before, doing the annual ryegrass, and which is so great is as it grows really fast. And as it grows, and I just weed whip it down. If your paths are wide enough, you can just mow it too. But you've got all this wonderful green stuff, green manure that you can just put. You can use it as mulch. You can, dig it in. You could take it and put it in your compost. All kinds of stuff you can do with that. Let me see. Oh, another big one. What is the difference between compost and mulch? Big question here. The terms compost and mulch are sometimes used interchangeably, which has created some confusion regarding the difference between the two. While compost is sometimes used as mulch, sometimes you can use compost as a mulch. There are two different things that serve different purposes in your garden. The basic answer to this gardening question is that compost is an organic soil amendment made up of decomposed materials. So you can mix the compost into the soil or side dress plants with it throughout the season to add nutrients to the soil and help improve the soil structure. Mulch is most often used to describe organic materials, but can describe either organic or inorganic materials that are spread on top of the soil to limit weed growth. Like I've used my shredded paper as a mulch, and that works out great. Or you use cardboard as a mulch, different things. Just is to help suppress the weeds and that kind of thing. It helps also to reduce erosion, moderate soil temperature, and improve moisture retention. Some common types of mulch include wood chips, gravel, straw, or pine needles. So a whole bunch of different things there. And we're almost done. Yay. How do I know when a plant is established? It's like, okay, seems to be big enough. So once the root system is established, you'll notice new growth above the soil. You'll also notice that you cannot simply yank the plant out of the ground with a little tug. So shrubs can take 1 to 2 years to become established, and trees might take up to 3 years to become established. Oh yeah, Alicia. Well, hey, I'm so glad that some of this information has been good for people. So that's great. Well, Kiri, how about making your raised beds out of the rocks? You can make rock beds. Yeah, wood chips look nice too. There you go, Dave. Yeah, I actually use them like between my beds on the rows and stuff. I will use shredded cedar mulch for like around my herbs. That seems to. It is hard to plant annuals in. Yes, because there's really nothing there when you've got a lot of wood chips. There's really nothing there for them to grab into and to to get established, to get their roots going and to germinate in. So, yep, exactly, Carrie. So, let me see. How do I get rid of weeds? It says weeds can be a serious problem for any gardener, and your focus should be on eliminating them rather than treating them. And yeah, don't treat them, because then you're pouring all kinds of other stuff in your garden. So usually a successful method is to dig a trench around your garden plot, line it with a sheet plastic. The trench should be a good foot wide and as deep as you can make it. This is interesting. I didn't read this one before. But yes, in other words, just some ground cover really, really helps to keep the weeds down. I think you've seen a lot of videos that have the plastic down, just to help keep the weeds down. And I just find it so much easier with raised beds to work with the, keeping the weeds suppressed, because they're contained just for my vegetables, and they're a singular space right there, and I just go through and get the weeds out of there, and it's easy to take care of. It's one of the real big reasons I like my raised beds. So you dumped 4 huge bags of leaves in your raised garden bed today. The goats munched on the leaves. There you go. You are doing it, Carrie. Absolutely. And then the last one is, how do I tell what kind of soil I have? The type of soil you have can have a significant impact on the success of your garden. Whether it's acidic or alkaline, how well it holds water or drains water, all that kind of stuff. So, you just have to look at that. There's like different home soil tests you can take, or you can even scoop up a pot of soil, bring it to your extension office or whatever, and say, hey, can you figure out what kind of soil I have or whatever? So, so that can definitely help there. Both front and back have lots of shade. The front is better for sun in the summer. That would probably be the better place to put than Alicia. So, all right, my garden tip is to spend a little time weeding every time you in the garden. Just, take 5 minutes or something, 10 minutes, and go out there and just pull a few weeds instead of waiting for one day. And it's like, okay, this Saturday, I'm going to go out and weed the whole thing. That becomes really overwhelming. And Saturday may come and it might rain, or life gets in the way, other things happen, and it's just like, okay. So if you just go out there each time you're watering or checking on the plants or whatever, just go out and pick a few weeds. Maybe just pick, one bed at a time or something, or half a bed. But if you just do a little bit and stay on top of it, kind of rotate around, it doesn't become a big thing. Then my prep tip for tonight is, because I've been organizing for the last, month here, organize all of your storage, your tools, supplies, and products. And that has to do with like your gardening, your prepping stuff and everything. What supplies you have, like, I just found I have at least 15 bags of potting soil, at least. So, it helps you to know what you have and what you don't have. It's like I put all my boxes of construction screws in one bin. So now I know exactly what I have and what I don't have. So, oh, you're welcome, Alicia. Yep, exactly, Eli. So you might as well use them. Thanks, Debbie. Thank you so much. But for all your storage, your products, your fertilizers that you have, your, even your garden tools, like, are they still in good shape? How did they fare over the winter? Did they get rusty? Do they need sharpening? All that kind of thing. So just kind of evaluate, see what you've got. All right, guys. Thank you so much Now I have to bring the bags upstairs. They are actually all upstairs. There is a pile kind of in the area between my living room and dining room. And I just keep adding more and more. It's like, oh man, I found another 3 bags. Just, and I might send you a picture, Sarah. Thanks, Eli. I love all you guys too. Absolutely. And yeah, so waiting for the weather to get good, waiting for my beds to get down so I can get rid of all that mound of soil I have in my house. Thanks, Alicia. Absolutely. So you guys take care. God bless. Always have hope. And I think I'll be here next week. I've got a full weekend. I'm going to be gone, but I will plan on being here next week. So talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.